Shalom. We are celebrating Hanukkah this week, and I pray that the light of the Messiah is shining in your home and bringing great joy and peace into your life. So this week's Torah portion is Mikitz, and it is Genesis 41:1 through 44:17. Now, the Haftarah that's written for me here is wrong, but in my Bible, it's 1 Kings 3:15 through 4:1. And the New Covenant portion is 1 Corinthians 2:1 through 15. Well, last week, we started the story of Yosef. What an amazing story. And we saw that his father loved him so much, gave him this very special coat of many colors. We saw him be thrown into the pit, to be sold into slavery, and end up also in jail. But in every one of these difficult circumstances, he prospered and succeeded because God was with him. And before he got out of jail, and this happened last week, there were two men in there with him who had been put in jail by Pharaoh, and they both had a dream. Joseph interpreted both of those dreams correctly, but one of the men, the cupbearer who ended up getting out of jail and back in Pharaoh's service, he had said to him specifically, when you get back out of jail, please remember me and help me get out of this jail because I don't deserve to be here. That brings us to today. So starting in chapter 41, in verse 1, it happened at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he was standing by the Nile. So what happened? The cupbearer gets out of jail and he completely forgets to mention Joseph. But what happens? 2 years later, Pharaoh has a dream. And in verse 2, and lo, from the Nile there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed in the marsh grass. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them from the Nile, ugly and gaunt, and they stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. The ugly and the gaunt cows ate up the 7 sleek and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke. He fell asleep and dreamed a second time, and behold, 7 ears of grain came up on a single stalk, plump and good. And then behold, 7 ears, thin and scorched by the east wind, sprouted up after them. The thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump and full ears. Then Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Now in the morning, his spirit was troubled, so he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them to Pharaoh. And then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I would make mention today of my own offenses. Pharaoh was furious with his servants, and he put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the bodyguard, both me and the chief baker. We had a dream on the same night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now, a Hebrew youth was there, a servant of the captain of the bodyguard, and we related these dreams to him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each one he interpreted according to his own dream. And just as he interpreted for us, so it happened. He restored me in my office, but he hanged him. And then Pharaoh sent and called for Joseph and hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon. Just wanted to pause right here to say that in God's kingdom, things can change so quickly. In one moment, Joseph is here in the dungeon, and the next minute, Pharaoh is calling for him, and Joseph they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon, and he shaved and he came before Pharaoh. Pharaoh told him his 2 dreams, and this is what he said. This is what Joseph said. In verse 25, Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has told to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one and the same. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 thin ears scorched by the east wind will be 7 years of famine. It is as I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. Behold, 7 years of great abundance are coming in all the land of Egypt, and after them 7 years of famine will come, and all the abundance will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine will ravage the land. So the abundance will be unknown in the land because of that subsequent famine, for it will be very severe. Now, as for the repeating of the dream to Pharaoh twice, it means that the matter is determined by God, and God will quickly bring it about. Now, let Pharaoh look for a man discerning and wise and set him over the land of Egypt. But what he's saying is bring somebody who understands the situation and can prepare Egypt for what is about to happen. And of course, Pharaoh is saying, well, nobody else can answer my dream. You are the wise man. You're the one who needs to do it. So Pharaoh says in verse 40, you shall be over my house, and according to your command, all my people shall do homage. Only in the throne I will be greater than you. Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And then Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand, and he put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put the gold necklace around his neck. He had him ride in his second chariot, and they proclaimed before him, bow the knee, and he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, though I am Pharaoh, yet without your permission, no one shall raise his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh named Joseph Zaphanath-Paneah. Then Pharaoh, and he gave him Osnat, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On, as his wife. And Joseph went forth over the land of Egypt. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now, once again, we see so much. In one moment, Joseph comes out of the dungeon, out of prison, and all of a sudden, he is second over all the land of Egypt. Look how God can move so quickly and so drastically in our lives. And what an encouragement that is, that God can do something suddenly for each one of us. Also, the fact that Joseph was 30 years old when he started ruling over Egypt, and that's the same age that Yeshua was when Yeshua started his ministry. Going on, it says in verse 49, Joseph stored up grain in great abundance like the sand of the sea until he stopped measuring it because it was beyond measure. Now, before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph, whom Osnat, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph named the first one Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all of my trouble and all of my father's household. He named the second Ephraim, for he said, God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. And then there was a famine in all the lands, but in the land of Egypt there was bread, because of the wisdom that God had given to Joseph. Now in verse 56, it says, when the famine had spread over all the face of the earth, then Joseph opened the storehouses and he sold to the Egyptians, and the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. The people of all the earth came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe in all the earth. In chapter 42, Jacob saw that Jacob, back in Canaan, he saw that there was grain in Egypt. And Jacob said to his sons, why are you staring at one another? In other words, that because this famine was all over that area. And so they were experiencing famine, Jacob and his sons. And so Jacob says, what are you doing sitting here? go to Egypt and bring us back some grain. So in verse 6 of chapter 42, Joseph, who was ruler over the land, he was the one who sold the grain to all the people of the land. Now, Joseph's brothers came and bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them. But he disguised himself to them and spoke to them harshly. And he said to them, "Where have you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." But Joseph had recognized his brothers, although they did not recognize him. Joseph remembered the dreams which he had had about them, and he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to look at the undefended parts of our land." So what do we see there? We see Joseph's brothers. Of course, they don't recognize him. Also, many times the Egyptians wore heavy makeup, and between probably the makeup and certainly the fact that he was not speaking Hebrew to them, they did not even know who he was. But what did they do? They bowed down to him, exactly the fulfillment of the dream that Joseph had had when he was a boy. Moving on, in verse 14, so Joseph, he knows who they are, and he says to them, "It is as he says that they're spies. It is as I said to you, you are spies. By this you will be tested, by the life of Pharaoh. You shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, that he may get your brother, while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you." Because all of the brothers went to get the grain except for Benjamin, because Benjamin was the true brother. He had the same mother as Joseph. And so Benjamin was also very special to Jacob, because Jacob thought that Joseph was dead, and Benjamin was the only son that he had left from Rachel. So he did not let the brothers take Benjamin when they went to Egypt. And Joseph had questioned the brothers about the family, and they mentioned that they had this brother, Benjamin. So he says, "You got to go, and somebody's got to go and bring this brother back." But then he changes a little bit, and he says, "Okay, you know what? I'll put one of you in prison. The rest of you go back home, and if you want more grain, you're going to have to bring your brother Benjamin back, so that I know that you're not lying." Now, what is so interesting is two things here. In verse 22 of chapter 42, Reuben answered saying, now the brothers are talking to each other, and Reuben says, "Didn't I tell you, do not sin against the boy, and you wouldn't listen? Now comes the reckoning for his blood." They did not know, however, that Joseph understood, for there was an interpreter between them. And Joseph turned away from them, and he wept. His heart was so touched. But when he returned to them and spoke to them, he took Shimon from them and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, and to restore every man's money in his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. And thus it was done for them. Now, remember, I had said last week, we need to keep paying attention to the names of the sons, because once again, we see Reuben feeling responsibility for what happened to Joseph. And we see that Joseph, he bound Shimon, and he put Shimon in prison. Now, one has to ask oneself why, and it is not written for us. We don't know why. But what we do know about Shimon is that who were the two sons of Joseph that went, remember when Dinah was raped by Shechem, it was Shimon and Levi who went and they killed all the men in that area. And so evidently, maybe Shimon was a very violent man. Maybe Shimon was one who was really wanting to kill Joseph. We don't know, but it's very interesting that these names are written for us so we can think about this. So the brothers are headed back home to Canaan, and they're on their way, and they find out that all the money that they had taken with them to pay for this grain, it's right back in their bags. And now they're totally afraid about what's going to happen. And they say, one says, my money has been returned, and behold, it's in my sack. And their hearts sank, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, what is this that God has done to us? You understand? They realize God is involved in this story, and they're seeing all these things that are happening to them as from the hand of God, and something that God is doing because of what they had done many, many years ago. So they get home and they tell their father, listen, Father, we have the grain here, but this is what happened. And they tell what happened with Joseph. And he says, but we can't go back and get any more grain until we take Benjamin with us. And then their father, Jacob, said, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more. Shimon is no more. And you would take Benjamin? All these things are against me. And then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, you may put my 2 sons to death if I do not bring Benjamin back to you. Put him in my care, and I will return to you. But Jacob said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should befall him on the journey you're taking, then you will bring my gray hair down to Sheol in sorrow. So once again, here's Reuben taking the place of the firstborn, taking responsibility from Benjamin, and even saying, you can put my sons to death if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. So in chapter 43, the famine was severe in the land. So it came about when they finished eating all of the grain that they had gotten in Egypt, which they had brought back, that their father said, go back, buy us some more food. And Judah spoke to him, and he said, listen, Father, this man said he is not going to sell us anything unless we bring Benjamin. And then in verse 8, Judah said to his father Israel, send Benjamin, the lad, with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, we as well as you and our little ones. I myself will be surety for him. You may hold me responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame before you forever. For if we had not delayed, surely by now we could have returned twice. Remember, here we've got Reuben and Judah, both of them taking responsibility, and these were the same two. Remember, it was Judah that said, don't kill him, throw him in the pit. And that was Reuben that said that. And it was Judah who said, let's sell him, in an effort to keep the brothers from killing him. So here these same 2 sons are stepping up again. So in the end, Jacob, Yaakov, there's nothing else to do. He says, okay, go back, take Benjamin with you, but take this really nice present. He sent with them gum and myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds. He says, take the money in your hand and take back more so that you can pay for this new grain, and tell him it was a mistake. May God Almighty grant you compassion in the sight of the man. Another thing I find interesting here is, who's back in prison in Egypt? Shimon. And they didn't turn right around and go back to get him. But I suppose it was because their father was so insistent that they not take Benjamin. But that brings up, there's so many questions that come to mind when I read this story. Anyway, going on, still in chapter 43 in verse 16. So they go, and when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to his house steward, bring the men into my house and slay an animal and make ready, for the men are to dine with me at noon. And so they did that. And the men, the sons of Jacob, are talking to each other, and they say to each other, it's because of the money that was returned in our sacks the first time that we came, that he's taking us to his house, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for slaves with our donkeys. Anyway, they take the sons to Joseph's house. And in verse 23, he says, be at ease, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And then he brought Shimon out to them. Then the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their donkeys fodder. So they prepared the present for Joseph's coming at noon, for they had heard that they were to eat a meal there. In verse 26, when Joseph came home, they brought into the house the present which was in their hand, and they bowed to the ground before him once again, just bringing this dream to life, fulfilling the dream that he had when he was a boy. And then Joseph asked them about their welfare, and he said, "Is your father well, of whom you spoke? Is he alive?" And they bowed down in homage. As he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, he says, "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me?" And he said, "May God be gracious to you, my son." Joseph hurried out, for he was deeply stirred over his brother, and he sought a place to weep. And he entered his chamber, and he wept there. And then he washed his face, and he came out, and he controlled himself, and he said, "Serve the meal." So they served him by himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is loathsome to the Egyptians. Now they were seated before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another in astonishment. They're thinking to themselves, how do they know how old we are, who was born first, and in what order we were born? They are astonished. In verse 34, he took portions to them from his own table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. And so they feasted and drank freely with him. So he told his servants, okay, fill their sacks up with grain, but put my silver cup in Benjamin's sack. And that's what they did. So the brothers head back home with Benjamin and with their sacks. But then Joseph sends his servants off, and he sends them, and they get to the brothers, and they say, he tells them what to say. He says, "You tell them, why have you repaid evil for good? Is not this the cup from which my Lord drinks?" So that's what they did. The servants of Joseph, they overtook the brothers, and they spoke to them these words. They said to them, "Why does my Lord speak such words as these? Far be it," this is what the brothers say, "far be it from us to do such a thing. Behold, the money which we found in the back of our sacks, we have brought it back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? With whomever of your servants it is found, let him die, and we will also be my Lord's slaves." Who else said that? Remember when Rachel stole the idols from her father, and it was Jacob who said, whoever has the idols, let him die. So now this is the same thing the brothers are saying. And in verse 10, he said, "Now let it be according to your words. He with whom it is found," meaning the cup that belonged to Joseph, "he shall be my slave, and the rest of you shall be innocent." So we're coming to the end, and it's leaving us in a cliffhanger. They search all the bags, and of course, where did they find the silver cup? In Benjamin's bag. And then in verse 14, when Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there, and they fell to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, "What is this deed that you have done? Do you not know that such a man as I can indeed practice divination?" So Judah said, "What can we say to my Lord? What can we speak? How can we justify ourselves? God has found out the iniquity of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's slaves, both we and the one in whose possession the cup has been found." But Joseph said, "Oh, far be it from me to do this. The man in whose possession the cup has been found, he shall be my slave. But as for you, you go to your father in peace." Oh my goodness, what a story. That's where it ends this week. And it just makes me think, I can hardly wait to just continue reading, because what? We see so much here. Their hearts are broken. Judah understands that God saw the sin that they did to Joseph so many years ago, these brothers are starting to understand that they can hide nothing from the Lord. And more than that, when Joseph said, okay, the rest of you go home, but leave Benjamin here, oh, their hearts were broken, because we know both Reuben and Judah had said, if anything happens to him, we take responsibility. So that's where we finished today. I know this was a long portion, but I hope that you have the most wonderful day, just knowing that we have this light of Hanukkah. He is with us just like he was with Joseph. The Lord bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.